two things going on. Golomb is one thing, and Yeshavish Nekabel is another thing. So that's the underlying shayla. What are the two things? And the Nakuda, the Filika of his mind is that it's going on two hamshachas that the chosen has to give to the Kala. Hamshachas Yitzenis, Hamshachas Makiv, and Hamshachas Pnimi. That's the basic mind of the Filika Rebbe. In order to explain that, the Filika Rebbe goes through a few dugmois why it's necessary to have the Hamshachas Hamakiv before you get to Hamshachas Pnimi. And the rule is that whenever you have to have a ha'alah of a makabel to a mashpia, we're talking about a mashpia makabel, which at the moment are shalei ve'erev zeh. You have to remember who is the sphere of the, who is the chosen and who is the kala in the spheres. The chosen is Zoh, Zerampin, and the kala is Malchus. But before the chosen, before the chuppah, the chosen is in Atzilus. I'm not talking about the real chosen down here. We're talking about where he's Meramas up there. Chosen Daim LaMelech, he's Daima to Malka Ilah, to the Melech Shalamayla. It means he is Bedugma Zoh. A person is Bedush Shalamayla, so he is Zoh. And who's the Kala? Malchus. So what's the problem? The problem is that Malchus is in Biyah. Because don't forget, this is Friday night. Friday night is when Malchus is coming home from a whole week's work. The whole week, all the 6 days of the week, Sheish Shmei HaMaisa, Sheish Shmei HaMalacha, Malchus is down in Biyah and busy building Mavara Biruri. That's why the whole Friday night is Altstam Lashon Nekeva. You have, for example, you say davening, I'm sure you realize that when you say Elokeinu V'Kirov in davening in the three tefillas of Shabbos, is you say V'yenuchu Vo, V'yenuchu Voi, V'yenuchu Vom. Why? Because Friday night is Aliyas HaMalchus, it's Lashon Nekeva. Malchus is being oiled from Biyah to Atzilus in order to have the chasna. So what we're saying to Malchus Friday night, we're saying Chod Dodi, Zo, be mashpia to Malchus, who's now in Biyah, because she needs help to come up from Biyah back into Atzilus. So that hashpah chitzonis is to help her up, because the rule is that when the makabel is too far away from the mashpia, he needs a siyua from the mashpia to come up. What's the Moshe? The Moshe is the Rav in Talmud. The Talmud feels that he has no erech to the Rav. So how can he even listen to what the Rav is saying? So the Rav has to make some type of milsa to the b'dichas. If he cracks a joke, so he's lowering himself down. He's giving him a sinus koyach that the makabel could start listening. There's two mashalim here. There's also Dugman Aveda. We'll get to that maybe later if we have time. So the Al-Kopanim, we're talking about Malchus and Biyah. Now the place where people get stuck in the first ois is when he starts going to a posed v'zehu al-kol kovid chuppah. So we're going to go straight to that. V'zehu al-kol kovid chuppah. What is v'zehu? V'zehu means v'hemshich to what we just now said. Now we'll understand al-kol kovid chuppah. What is it we said before that al-kol kovid chuppah is going to explain? So the thing is like this. That hamshacha that Zoh gives to Malchus in order to help Malchus come up from Biyah into Atzilus is called the chuppah of the Kala. There are two chuppahs going on not the same time. At the end, it's going to be at the same time. There's a chuppah for the Kala. There's a chuppah for the Chos. The chuppah for the Kala is the Badekanish. That is the first hamshacha from the Mashpia to the Makabel, from the Chos to the Kala. He's giving her an Ur Makif. So, in fact, it says it's brought down in some places that it's very masubal for children that time when you should have in mind you be mashpia to her, and then you should also have the same kavanas as you have under the chuppah. That is, the whole tachlis of a chasna is should have banim Yerushalayim and oiskim Torah mitzvahs, like the Maimon finishes off. So it's also be mechavan b'shas ma'aser b'shas badekanish. But what's happening over there? You're giving her her private chuppah, so she has her chuppah. That's the hashpah of the chosen to the kala. That is her nesinas koyach. Now she can come to the chuppah. Even then she needs help. And the chosen also needs help because mitzad busha, you need shushvinim. That's why you help from both sides, as if it's a shame to go, so somebody helps you along. So you take the chosen to the chuppah, you take the kala to the chuppah. So that first hashpah is from the mashpia to the makabel, chuppah pratis. Now that she has the chuppah pratis, you then take her, she's going up into Atzilus. Where's Atzilus? The Zohar, the chosen, is standing under his chuppah. That's her makiv over Zoh. So that's another chuppah. But if it's makiv over Zoh, automatically it's makiv over Malchus as well, because Malchus is the last sphere. So she comes in with her little chuppah, under your big chuppah, And that big chuppah is makif over both of you. And b'koyach this makif elyon, which is shosha is very, very high, it's coming from bina, but as it says in many places, imoy is not just bina is really giving over a makif from keser. That koyach is meyached the chosim and the kala. So the first yichud actually happens under the chuppah, according to what it says in Tafresh Nun Zayin. I think the Maimon of Hukah Chosin, he says there that that's the yichud of Avo, which is not mentioned in the Maimon of the Fidik Rebbe. But in the Rebbe he brings down that there's a yichud of Avo. It's the same idea. You have a yichud of Mashpir Makabel wherever there's a yichud of Mashpir Makabel. So you have Zoh and Malchus, and you have Chochma and Bina, and actually you can have it's brought about, the Rebbe mentioned it in Chai Sarah about yichud Mal Ban. So there's a yichud called yichud Mal Ban Da'atik. You can have yichudim up there as well. All the way up you have yichudim. Yichudim just means a hamshacha from a Mashpir to Makabel, that they can be misyachid. So under the chuppah is the yichud of Zoh and Malchus, so therefore you have two chuppahs. What's covered got to do with it? This is the part which is, the pasuk says, I'll call covered chuppah. First of all, why does he bring this pasuk? This pasuk has nothing to do with chosim and kala. I'll call covered chuppah is a pasuk in, I think in Yeshaya, which has to do with the Golomb of Losid Lovid, that there's going to be a cloud, and on top of that there's going to be another cloud, and also all types of covered for the Yidden, and there's going to be clouds on top of that. So it's nothing to do with the chosim and kala. But al pi hadrush, you can be here's merumas that whenever there's a al-kol koved, there's a chuppah. Whenever there's a koved, there's a chuppah. Where is there a koved? What koved are we talking about? So in this case, we're talking about the koved of the chosin and the koved of the kala, the two koveds. Al pi Kabbalah, there's a koved of Zohar and a koved of Malchus. There's a koved of Chochmah and a koved of Bina. There's koved Nivra, koved Netzel. What does koved mean in simple language? Is in the Fidik Rebbe's Maimah, he said the koved of the chosin is the chosin is the Eibishter. The koved of the chosin is the ava of the Eibishter to Yidden. And the koved of the kala is the ava of Yidden to the Eibishter. So it comes out that koved means ava. And we're saying al kol koved, whenever there's a koved, you need a chuppah. So this is the piece that's not explained clearly in the Maimah, but it would seem like this. The koved of the chos and the koved of the kala means that they have a yachas to each other, but there's no connection between them. You can have koved. What is koved? Koved is an inyan chitzoni. It's nothing to do with the mahus of the person himself. What's the example of koved? The Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan kol lamana machbadusa. Rabbi Yochanan called his clothing machbadusa. How do you know he's a Rebbe Yid? He wears a fur thing. You know, a choshev Yid, such a special coat. It's such a special kapata. So the clothing is called a form of koved. What is it? It's an inyan chitzoni. It's only an expression of the person, but it's not anything. Nothing's happening. So the koved of the chos and the koved of the kala just means they're hisyachsus one to each other, but there's no yichud. So I'll call koved whenever you have two koveds. That means you have a mashpir and a makabel, and they both have a yachas to one another, but they don't have a yichud. You need a chuppah, and the chuppah will be b'yachid the two of them. First, the chuppah for the kala in order to bring her up from biyah, and the second chuppah which will be over both of them, and that will be b'yachid them. So if we look at it inside, we'll just read maybe those lines. V'zeu al kol koved chuppah, towards the end of the first pedic. Shehem beis bechinas koved of chosin and koved of kala. Ulamayla yes, if you go to the level of moichin, is koved the abba and koved the imah of chochma and bina. But alidei zeh, alidei what? Alidei the two chuppahs, which is on top of the koved, is alidei zeh hu yichud avo and yichud zu. Even though both of these things, the koved and the chuppah, why there's so many brackets I have no idea. The koved and the chuppah of avo and the koved and the chuppah of zun are all bechinis makif, and makif is usually higher than pnimi. So therefore, and it's powerful, it's much more powerful. Nevertheless, mikol bochem yedua shedafke beyichud zun, which is a yichud pnimi, is nimshach the etzem. Yichud the etzem of who? Which etzem is nimshach? The etzem of Zoh. Zoh and Malchus, one's being mashpir, Zoh is being mashpir to Malchus. What's he being mashpir? Makifim, Eiris, Alafayna. But when is nimshach the etzem of Zoh is only by the yichud pnimi, which you can understand yourself. We're talking about after the Shas Nisruin. Is nimshach the atzmius of the ish, the chosin, and that dafka is the keich that allows to have to be mekayim the whole mitzvah, which is the whole reason for the chasna, which is the mitzvah of pru revu. So that's when it's nimshach the etzem. Now the Rebbe's hadgosh in this maimah is that although the Fidik Rebbe it seems, is only talking about the Seder of the Hashbois. The first comes the Hashbois Hamakif, and then comes the Hashbois Pnimi. First comes the Kovod and the Chuppah, then comes the Nisuim B'Poel. Nevertheless, says the Rebbe, that the Kavanah with all his Mashalim is not just to tell us the Seder of the Inyanim, first Makif and then Pnimi. The Kavanah is also to show us the Maila of each Hashboah, the Maila of Hashboah Hamakif over the Hashboah Pnimis. Where do you see in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimah that the Hashboah Makif is so special? The Rebbe is saying that even though Makif is a Hagdama to the Pnimi, but nevertheless it has an Ilui over the Pnimi. That's the whole thrust of the Maimah. That the Makif comes first because it has a Maila over the Pnimi. And nevertheless the Pnimi is Nimsh of the Etzeh. That's the whole way the Maimah is going, right? You've learned the Maimah, I'm assuming. Or should we, I mean, if you want to do it inside, I'm assuming you've learned the Maimah. No? You want to do it inside? Huh? Should we take a vote? No, if I'm speaking of an oif and let me stand, you've learned it, and I'm just making clarifications. If you want, we can do inside. Just let me know. I'll repeat a bit slower then. The Frierdiker Rebbe in the Maimah goes through a few Mashalim to explain that the Makif comes first. For example, the Hashboah of a Rav to a Talmud, first he says a Milsa de B'dichasa, and then he teaches. The Milsa de B'dichasa is Makif. What's a Milsa de B'dichasa? If the whole shir would be just Milsa de B'dichasa, then the Talmud comes out no wiser than it was before he started the shir. So the whole ufta, the ikh of the shir is, it should be the Hashboah Saseichel. But nevertheless, there's a Maila in the Milsa de B'dichasa. What's the Maila in the Milsa de B'dichasa? That it creates a connection. It pulls the Talmud up from his bittul, and he's able now to be makabel from the Rav. That's the first marshal of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Brings them Gemara about it, and he explains it barichas. So the Milsa de B'dichasa is only a Milsa de B'dichasa, but it's Sichas Chulum Shel Talmidei Chachamim, which needs to have... What?
Does it have to be connected to limits like that? He will understand. Because how by Milsa de Chusla will...
Because the Talmud is too bittul. We're talking about a Rav, we're talking about, not a Stam Rav in Talmud, we're talking about a Rav like a Rebbe.
Right.
The Rebbe once said actually in the Fabrengen that the Milsa de B'dichasa that we have, when the Rebbe says a Gilui of Torah is B'derech Kol the Maimah. The Maimah is the Gilui of Shechina Medaberes. The Hachona to the Maimah, which is the Nigan, that's like the Milsa de B'dichasa. That prepares you, puts you in the mood, in the right frame of mind that you're now going to be makabel. You're singing together and you're now able to receive. But otherwise, in Milsa de B'dichasa, the Gemara says, Rov Mekama de Pasach Lulu B'Shmaitza, Om Milsa de B'dichasa, Bodchi Rabbanan, he said a joke, and they all laughed. And then Pasach B'Shmaitza, then he started teaching. What was the aim of the Milsa de B'dichasa? To create that connection. They feel in Dunstan they have no error and they're not able to receive. The minds are closed. Because how are they going to understand? But when he has that little, he lets himself down a joke. He says a joke, they feel closer a bit, and they're able to listen to the limud. That's the first mashal. The second mashal is the mashal of the father and the child. The child is very small, and the father wants to be mishtashea in benoi panim el panim. He wants to play with him. He's a little baby. So what does he do? He puts his hands down and he picks up the child. And now he's face to face. Now he can play with the child. Now, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, bringing the hands down to pick up the child is a very chitzonish thing. There's no hashboah. The child didn't get anything from it. When does he get something? Is when he's being mishtasheh. He has pleasure with playing with his father. But putting down the hand is garnish. But without the hands going down and pulling him up, he wouldn't be able to be mishtasheh upon him. So the hashboahs hayadayim, hashboahs hayadayim is the chitzonius, and the shashuim is the pnimius. So you see the Hagbah, the Makif comes before the Pnimi. That's the second mashal. So also here the Rebbe says, in each of these mashalim, although the Frierdiker Rebbe is only telling us the Seder, that Makif comes before Pnimi, but nevertheless, there is a Maila in the Makif over the Pnimi. Hagam, the Iki is the Pnimius, because what's the Kavanah? The Iki is the Shashoim Panim or Panim. And the Iki of the Shir is that the Rav should give him a Seichel, the tiny of the Seichel. But beforehand, you need the Hagdomis, you need a joke, and you need Hashbolah Seyadayim to pick up the child. That's the Seder. So the Frierdiker Rebbe is only talking about the Seder. The Rebbe says the fact that this comes first, the fact that the Frierdiker Rebbe brought these two Mashalim is not just to tell us the Seder, that Makif comes before Pnimi, but Ba'omek Yoseh, in the Makif, there's a Maila over the Pnimi. Where do you see there's a Maila over the Pnimi? That's the whole Maimah of the Rebbe, to show you the Maila of the Makif over the Pnimi. I was asking before, is where do you see by the Frierdiker Rebbe that that's what he wants to say? That there's a Maila in the Makif before the Pnimi. If you think about it for a second, it's quite straightforward. If the whole Maimah is explaining about the Makif coming first, that would mean that there's something to talk about. If the Ikki is the Pnimi, just talk about the Pnimi. The whole Maimah of the Frierdiker Rebbe is all about Makifim. It's all about the Vadekanish. The Chuppah is Makif, the Kovid is Makif, we know, and also B'Poel Mamish. What happens by the Chasna? Let's talk Ma'aser. What's going to happen? It's all Makifim. The whole story from B'Tchilas Vat Sefer, besides the Yichud room, is all Pnimi. Is all Makif. The Kabbalah's Panim is Makif. The Vadekanish is Makif. Going to the Chuppah is Makif. She goes round 7 times is Makif. The ring is round. You jump over the spoon when you go to the Yichud room. In the Simcha, which comes afterwards, is also circles. I mean, there's all different types of Rikudim nowadays, so I won't get into that. But Ofen Klali, there's an union of Yalze Chasidim B'Mochel. Whereas Mochel is a circle. And there's another thing, which he says in the Kutei Torah, that I always thought it was just Stamazeh, you pick up the Chosin on a table, make it more Freilich. Kutei Torah, he says, you're picking up the Chosin, you're picking him up to the Makifim, which are Nesgala B'Shas the Chuppah. So there's an Indian to go on the table. They pick you up on the table, keep on going.
How high should we go?
How high? Until you hit the ceiling. You don't hit the ceiling.
It's a minute, it's not a minute.
Huh?
Back in the minute.
There's an Indian to pick it. Kutei Torah, he says, picking him up the Makifim. In other words, Be'etzim comes on the day of the Chuppah, you have all Yom Tovim happen. You have a Yom Kippur, most of them are Mesa. It's the very end, and then immediately you have a Simchas Torah, and then afterwards you have 7 days of Sukkot. Yes, it's also an Indian, the 7 days. Sheva Brachos. See, actually that's how it works. Up until the Chuppah, up until the smashing of the glass is Taka very ernst. Mincha is ernst. And under the Chuppah is very important. Maybe I should say these things now, before we get to, seeing as nobody seems to have gone through the Maimah. We'll get to some of the important things maybe, which is negea to the Yom HaChuppah. It's important to know that under the Chuppah is Nimshach, the Makif. That's what the Frierdiker Rebbe says in the Maimah in the first Sif. Frierdiker Rebbe writes that under the Chuppah is Nimshach, the Makif HaKlali, this Makif which is Miyachad, the Chosin Nekava, and in the Kitzah he writes is Nimshach HaAtzmus, the Shini from the Kitzah. It's not unusual to have a Sof in the Kitzah which you don't have in the Pnim. B'shas the Chuppah is Nimshach, and then it's Nimshach HaKayach for the whole life. In Tavshim Memches, it was the last liquid I think that came out just before Chafei Shvat. The Rebbe said to print a ksav which they just found from the Mikla Rebbe. The Mikla Rebbe writes like this. It's a 3-line Maimah. The Mikla Rebbe is very long. This is 3 lines. Hatam shemamidim achosin tachas achupah v'yom chasunosei ki achupah hu b'chinas makif v'chol ma sheyasek b'avodas Hashem ad yimei chayot nimshach le mimakif ba'ez hazois v'lachein tzarich lekashem machshavte b'Hashem oz shalidei kein yamshech mimakif oz. You have to be careful what you're thinking under the chuppah. In other words, if at that time you're under the chuppah, that means you're taka, both from Kroli, more or less than Atzilus at that time. And that's how you should behave. Because it says, in Perish Yisrael, Rebbe also brings down, Perish Yisrael, it says that Meichel Nikol Avei Noisav, and it's an Eis Ratzon, and it's one Sefer I saw, it says that it's like the Chosim is like the Tzaddik Hador at that point. He has the Milo like the Tzaddik Hador. That's why by some places they give Klitlach to the Chosim. By uns Fitzach nicht does it, but if somebody asks you for a bracha, it's Shatnish, in Tzaddik Yisrael, you can ask a bracha for other people as well. People do that under the Chuppah. But the ikki is you have to think about yourself. And the main, most important thing to think about under the chuppah is that you should have bonim, shemayim, healthy and happy, begashmis and baruchnis. That's the nekuda. To be meisiv, you can be meisiv many other things. And Mistama be'ikki's pshash is going round. Without scaring anyone, there was a meisiv with the Baruch Mezhebush that was once a couple who came and Lena didn't have any children. And the Baruch said that the reason is because under the chuppah they only did 6 times round instead of 7. So you mustn't have a nervous rabbi officiating by the chuppah that wants to get it over and done with. You have to get somebody counting, and you have to remember it has to be 7 full hakafas, not, for example, over here when she comes in from this side, she comes under the chuppah and she starts over here. That's not a hakafah. That's kind of coming into place. Once she's standing on the right of the chosn, now starts 7 hakafas. So it's very important b'shas ma'isa when she's going around. That's the Eis Ratzon, to ask for the most important thing, which is Bani Mir Shemayim. There was also a famous ma'isa with one of the
Some bites.
yes, you can ask for everything. Shalbayit should be retired, kedusha. Everything should be done from Western Leif. There was a ma'isa with the I don't know if it's the famous Getzel from whom the shul is named after, or his father or his uncle. I don't know which one, but one of the Avi Haraskins, or the Zaydas of one of the Raskins, was offered a shidduch once and he didn't want it, and the Rebbe Rashab said it's a good shidduch and he didn't want it, and the Rebbe Rashab said if you take this shidduch, I'll give you a yechidus before the chuppah. On the way to the chuppah, come by Lubavitch and drop off for a few moments and I'll give you a bracha. So he was masking. Those days used to have Kabbalah sale. So he was masking to the shidduch and he's on the way to the chuppah, he stops off in Lubavitch and he went in and the Rebbe Rashab stood up. The exact nusach you can ask from Shlomo Zachi, he knows the one nusach is brought down Sforim B'Shinuyim, but Apaponim Ba'ofen Klali, this is what the Rebbe Rashab said. Unter den Chuppah kämen ausbetten Kinder Tmimim Yerushalayim of 50 Jahr, or something better like that, which means you can be poil then to have a family 50 years, I don't know if the exact 50 years, that means the whole generation or 2 generations of children Yerushalayim and Chassidim and Tmimim. In other words, you can be poil anything under the Chuppah b'shas ma'isa.
Who says this?
The Rebbe Rashab said it to a chassid. And there was something recently I saw a Haisaf in a nusach that he said to someone else, but I don't have it on me at the moment. Al-Kapone, so that's under the chuppah. And also, Meichel Mekol Avenoises, so the Rebbe says you have to do tshuva beforehand, which by the way, tshuva includes, b'pashtus, learning Igeres HaTshuva. Why? Because I saw in a letter once, I mentioned this many times, that in a letter the Rebbe writes to someone who did something wrong, I don't know what the Aveda was, the Rebbe says you should learn Igeres HaTshuva 12 times, or 12 and a half times. What was the Inyan? Because it says if a person learns the halachas of Kodem Chatos, it's as if he is Makriv Chatos. If he learns the halachas of Kodem Oila, Ki'ilei Hikriv Oila. If he learns Igeres HaTshuva, Ki'ilei Asa Tshuva. That doesn't mean you don't have to do tshuva, it means the things which you can't be Mekayim, but Poil, let's say, doing a bunch of tiniest, which we're not shaykhs to, is, but if you learn it, you're learning, you're trying to be Mekayim it through learning, then it's as if you're being Mekayim the Inyan. So that's when they go to the chuppah. Why is this? Because b'shas ma'is is nimshach makifim, very strong makifim. These makifim are negeya, the Russian middle Rebbe is ad yimei chayav. That means till the end. Everything is nimshach. Every single thing is nimshach b'shas. In other words, it's a new yidus and a shama happening at that time, and it's all coming down under the makif of the chuppah. So it's important what you think then. So therefore, you should have your mind set out in advance before you come to the chuppah. Think about what you're going to think about under the chuppah, and what you're going to think about by mincha before you come to the chuppah. And especially if you have a chance to have the Rebbe Siddur, is also Eis Ratzon. The Rebbe, when the Rebbe gave the Siddur, the Rebbe used to say, "Zos als gut Eis beten." That was more or less the nusach. Eis beten means not just beten, but Eis beten means taka to be poil through your beten, through your shubot bakoshes. So it's also a special time that the mincha beforehand. Of course, we say al chet, as you know, we say al chet by mincha on the day of the chuppah, and then there's the chuppah itself. What is the whole Maila? Getting back to the Maila, the whole Maila, the Frierdiker Rebbe is talking about Makifim. The premium come at the beginning and the end, that's about it. So you see that the Makif is a big thing, and the whole Chuppah is all Makifim. So it's become Muchach that Makif has to have a Maila over Pnimi. Why is that? Because the only way you're going to get to Pnimi is through the Makif. It's called Chitzonis because it's only a Hagdom, it's not the Ikka, but it's very, very powerful. Just like a Milsa de B'dichasa. Think of a Milsa de B'dichasa, not just in a shir, because everybody knows you say all the big speakers start off with a joke, and then a story, and then they get into what they want to say. That's a well-known thing. But think of it, if you're doing Miftzayim with somebody on the street, if you don't have some type of sense of humor, some type of connection with him, he's not catered to listen to you. You're from a different planet. A black cat, well, I'm not going to speak to a black cat, but if you smile to him, how are you? Like the famous story with the Bach, one of them, Melchishlichus. You know the story with the how are you? He was told that Rabbi Chodakov gave him a drasha that before you go in, you're just going straight into whatever you want to talk about, with Tzorim or whatever. You go into somebody's house, you say, you go in, you ask them, how are you, how's business, you know, niceties. And then you get into Yiddishkeit. So this Bacher Tami came into the house and said, Rabbi Chodakov said to ask, how are you? Versteht sich, it's a joke, it's also Mr. Bedicha, but the idea is, you're supposed to be makdim a shtickle kiruv through Mr. Bedicha, so that's powerful. That joke is powerful because this is how you make the connection with the person and he's now able to listen to you. So you see the power of Mr. Bedicha. The Rebbe is now in this moment going to explain where is the shorish of Mr. Bedicha. So let's go into the next seif where the Rebbe talks about the mile of the Mr. Bedicha. Let's maybe go this seif inside because it gets quite involved. והנה המושל הראשון הוא מהשפוס רב לתלמיד. בסדר ההשפוע הוא, כמו שאומר לזל, דמקם בדפסך לא רבנם אונם, מילסא דבדיחס הבת חרבנו. First he said a joke and they laughed, but בסוף יוסף באמצע פסק בשמייתם. They sat with fear and they listened and he started saying the shir. מילסא דבדיחס שקיידן הלימוד, the joke that he said first, שהוא עניין שיחס חולים של תלמיד החכם שצריך לימוד, is he Chitzenis Levad. He says Shetzricha Libud, that means because it's a Talmud Chacham saying Sichas Chul. It's a joke, a vod that's coming from a Talmud Chacham. It means even if it sounds like a tzaddik and a Talmud Chacham is saying something that sounds like a joke, you could learn pshat in this joke. You could make a whole pulpit out of it. Like it's brought down in Sefer told us at Reb Marash that one time the Meshoris came into the souk and he was in a bad mood. And the Rebbe Rashab said to him, sort of like a vod, he said to him, Schach hot nish holt kas. The schach doesn't like an angry face, an angry person. So later on, when the Rebbe Rashab went away and they made a whole pupil, what's the pshat in the schach? And it was a vod. The guy comes in with a bad mood, so the Rebbe said something to calm him down, and it was made of it a whole pupil. It's only a vod, sichas chulin, but this sichas chulin, you can learn from it ganz namaises. The Fidik Rebbe is meirig in this inyan about sichas chulin. But still it's chitzenius bilvad. Omnum hashpah zu, he hagdama la hashpah primis. After this hashpah chitzenius is a hagdama to get to the primis, ki dafka li dezeh nasa psichas haleva ameich shla talmud. Only through this he opens up, ki shehi ekeli le kabbalah la hashpah primis. V'hinei, mekoyim mashal zehu me'ad mohem tzoi b'teres chaim. This is coming from the Rebbe. Ela she b'teres chaim lehu v'zeh k'mashal laha inyan d'lacha deidi. The Finkel Rebbe doesn't talk about their Lochadedi, which is the last Maimon that Rebbe Rashab said on his last birthday. There's the last birthday Maimon that Rebbe Rashab said is Mekasha b'derech efshe. The Rebbe Rashab says ve'efshe shezeu inyan Lochadedi, etc. Which is ha'inyan de milsa de b'dichase ha'inyan Lochadedi. Is Mekasha these two things together. That the milsa de b'dichase is like Lochadedi, meaning what? That when you go to when the doidi goes to the kala and does that badekanish, that's like the milsa de b'dichasa. Or in the second mashal, that would be when you do the badekanish, it's like picking up the child from biyah into atzilus. So you're picking up the kala, so to speak. You're helping her to come up from biyah into atzilus. The Fidik Rebbe left out the ve'efshe v'keis v'zeh b'pashtus. By the way, where else do we find this that you miss out the ve'efshe? Another example in Yonah the Yoma, where we find the ve'efshe missed out. The Rebbe says it, one Rebbe says it b'derech efshe, and the next Rebbe says it b'pashtus. Hayom yom fiyutes kisrev. Hayom hazeh hu Rosh Hashanah l'dach. The Rebbe Rashab said, Korev loima is Rosh Hashanah l'dach. After that, and Hayom yom, you don't even see a dot that there used to be there Korev loima, it's b'pashtus. Das is Rosh Hashanah l'chassidus. Anyway, so the Fidik Rebbe is Mekasha and Milsa de B'dichase with l'chadoidi, but he leaves out the ve'efshe. Now here comes the Maila of the Milsa de B'dichase. U'v'teres chaim shom, Mevaya, Gesheirish inyan haschoik, hu mitainuk haposhet shebilti murkiv klal. Where does schoik come from? It comes from a level of tainuk in the Rav, the person who's making the joke, which is bilti murkav. Murkav means it's not made up of other ingredients. Like in Ivrit they say, how do they say ingredients in Ivrit?
Markivim.
Markivim, right. So this is not murkav, it's no other ingredients, it's bilti murkav. It's a tiny poshut. ומזה מובן דשריש של מוסר דבדיחסה, שהוא תייניק הפושט, הוא למעלה מהשפעות השכל של האחרי זה. שהתייניק שבשכל הוא תייניק מורכב, that makes sense. What tainik do you have in a seichel? It's a tainik which is murkav of seichel. It's a certain type of tainik. There's a pleasure in a good tune, there's a pleasure in a piece of seichel, there's a pleasure in a chocolate cake. It's different types of tainugim. One of them is a tainik of seichel. And what's the tainik of laughter? Is the tainik from the words of the seichel of what the person said? What's when a person laughs? Why is he laughing? If we go into the psychology of laughter, why does a person laugh? It's a tiny posture. Why is it a tiny posture? You're going to ask him. You say he cracked a good joke. But it's obvious that the reason why a person is laughing is not from the timing of the seichel of what the person said. Because if that's the case, when any Rosh Yeshiva gets up and says a nice pilkul, everybody should be laughing. It wouldn't be very respectable to burst out laughing when he's saying this tradition in a k'tzos, at the geschmack k'tzos, nobody starts laughing. He'll take it as an insult, right? Because it's not from the seichel that you're laughing. It's not from what he said. It's something else. That's only something that ignites a person. But what does it ignite? He says a chap, something funny, and that ignites the tainug haposhut. The tainug haposhut is not murkav in anything, therefore it's not a normal type of tainug. It's not in your head or in your arm or in your heart or something like that. It's just you're bubbling over, right? So it's not murkav with anything in particular. It's poshut. It's just the pleasure of the nefesh been let loose. And the joke.
It's more of laughter.
Stoik
is more
laughter. Laughter. Yeah. It's not murkav with anything. It's allowing the nefesh to have freedom. They say that the best therapy is to have a good laugh. Why? Because you're letting your nefesh free. It's going into tiny poshut. It's healthy to laugh. As a result, it's healthy to laugh. They say that each country has its own type of laughter, right? You can't crack a joke. I've tried it, believe me. I give shiurim sometimes to different places and try saying a joke. English jokes do not work in America, and American jokes do not work in England. They just don't work. Why? Because of the mentality. If it was seichel, so it should work everywhere. B'shava, it doesn't. Why? Because it's the mentality of the person, and this he finds funny, and this he finds funny. That's the psychology. We'll get to that another time, maybe. Okay. When we say movement that it's coming from Tainig HaPoshit. Now, what could be higher than that? We're going to say that the Tainig of a joke is a Tainig Poshit. And then what happens after he said the Nusa de B'dichasa? The Rav then sits down and starts teaching. What Tainig is that? It's a lower Tainig. It's a Pnimi. It's going into Seichel. It's a Tainig Mukiv in Seichel. And we said the klal is that although the Makif is higher and maybe stronger, but the Ikki is the Pnimi even though it's lower and smaller. Right? And what do we say at the beginning of the first seed? The Makif has to come first. Then comes the Pnimi. But Dafka by the Yichud Pnimi is Nimshach the Etzem. So Dafka the Yichud Pnimi brings you to the Ikka. Nimshach the Etzem, or you reach a higher level. So how can you have higher now? You have already the tiny Pashit and laughter. You then have the tiny Murkiv, which is lower in Seichel. What comes higher after that? Omnam Mikol Moklim, Harezerak Bechinas Chitzenius. This laughter is only Chitzenius. Validei Hashpah Pnimius, when he then later on starts teaching and he has a tiny in the Seichel, Magim Le'ilui Naila Yoseh, he reaches a much higher tiny. What tiny could be higher than tiny Pashit? Says the Rabbi of Ha'inyan, I'll tell you what tiny could be higher than tiny Pashit. There were tiny Pashit Gufa Yesh based out of this. In tiny Pashit is two levels. Tiny HaPashit HaMurgish, the tiny HaAtzmi HaBilti Murgish. The Dafka Alidei HaAshpah Pnimius, Shatam B'Mekabel B'Pnimiusa, B'Pnimiusai, Magim, the tiny HaAtzmi HaBilti Murgish. This needs explanation. He's going down a level, he's being mashpir to the Talmud, that means the Rav is being mitzamtzim himself. He's coming out of his tiny HaPashit from the laughter. He's now being mitzamtzim himself to be mashpir b'pnimius to the Talmud, which is a tzimtzum also of his seichel. It's a whole big tzimtzum to try and teach to this Talmud, which is shlei ba'erach to him. And dafka through that, the Rav reaches a tainug atzmi bilti murgish. What's atzmi bilti murgish? Well, it would seem like this. in Tainuk HaPoshet, you can have Murgish and Bilti Murgish, meaning Murgish doesn't mean if you feel it or not. It may also mean that. Murgish means if it's Murgish in the Evorim and the Koiches of the person. For example, when a person is told that he just won $1 million, what do you expect his reaction is going to be? Depending on who he is, versteht sich, but he might start jumping or clapping or saying wow or some type of tnuah, and you'll see it begashmis. He won't be able to sit the same as he was before. When you tell him it's raining outside, he said the tnuahs are going to change over here. Why the tnuahs going to change? It's a tainu which is murgish. Murgish means it's coming out. It's baham shocha, and it's murgish in the yivorim chitzonim. He might start even jumping off at his feet. It's going all the way down to his feet. That means it's murgish in the yivorim. Or murgish in the keiches. For example, when Rabbi said the Milsa de Bedicha said to the Talmidim, they had a good laugh, which is definitely murgish, and it was also murgish in their keiches. They had a psichas hameichin. Now they're able to listen. So it has a hargosh. In other words, it's nimshach and murgish both in the keiches and in the yivorim chitzonim. Whereas a tainug atzmi bilti murgish is such a tainug which doesn't have any external expression. He's not going to jump, he's not going to laugh, he's not going to even smile. He may, the Russian, the Rebbe Rashav's memory, I think it's stuck in Samach Nesamach, he says, he stands like an Evan Daimon, he can't move. Well, now what type of tainug would be this? Give me an example of such a tainug. It's very difficult to find such a tainug. But there is a mind with the Rebbe Rashav in Nun Ches where he says, we're soon going to come to that parsha where he says that when the Shvatim came back and said to Yaakov, Oy Yosef Chai, that Yaakov didn't want to believe it. He didn't accept the words. And the Maimon says that the Emerson, when he heard the news, he was so mismali with tainug that there was like a conflict going on. He was so much tainug he couldn't take it. So he was in denial. That's when somebody knows the truth and he's in denial. He was sort of in denial. It can't be. I don't know. He wasn't able to express it. It wasn't like he told somebody he won a lot of money. He expressed it. He smiles. You see a hagosha. Here it was so tainug atzmi. What's a taish atzmi? Whenever you come across this, of rotzen atzmi tainug, what does atzmi mean? Atzmi means it's got to do with the etzim. It touches the etzim. A rotzen atzmi means a rotzen that's coming because of the etzim. A tainug atzmi is a tainug that's reaching inside the etzim. This is not hamshacha b'murgish. This is ha'ala b'derech oichayz. It's going inside to his etzim. So he goes inside himself and externally says it can't be true. He didn't want to believe it. Lo yemin b'hem. He didn't believe him. But inside, the timing was so great, he couldn't take it, so he was going inside himself, and therefore he wasn't able to move. There is another mashal, perhaps a slightly more simpler mashal. I saw for the Hiddle somewhere, one of the Sefer Vayikra, the new Sefer that came out not so long ago. He says that the mashal of tainug atzmi bilti murgish would be, for example, when you see a king. I know in America you don't have this, but you have in those countries where they have a king or a queen, everybody runs to see the queen with a crown on and the Eiches HaMelech, just to see the Kvoid Hoid Malchus is a tainug nifla. People wait in the streets for days, camping out to be able to have a glimpse of the queen coming out with a crown on. Was hoster from that? Garnished. You're becoming richer from that? No. So what are you just to see? The tainug is such a great tainug that you want to see. Are you getting something from it? No. But it's like getting stuck to see this tainug nifla. And there's no tnuah on the outside, you're just watching and seeing and enjoying with the tainug nifla. So that is another sort of mashal, of a tainug which is atzmi. It's reaching very deep, but it has no external expression. So murgish we would say would mean baham shacha, and bilti murgish would be baha'allah inside. So it comes out that although at the beginning there was a big tainug of laughter, but laughter is expressing. You see him jumping around, he's laughing. Later on, there's a tainug, he's b'pnimius, he's mitzumtzum inside it's already a tainug murgish, that's a tainug of seichel. After that, the Rav comes to some type of tainug atzmi bilti murgish, which doesn't express itself, not in laughing, and not in any external way, but it's a certain tainug that he has in his essence. I haven't come across yet a Rav that has this tainug atzmi, at least I don't. They don't explain it because it's not murgish, so they don't tell you that they're having this tainug atzmi bilti murgish. But the pashtus, it means there's a certain tainug and shlemus in the person when he has, I would assume, it's not talking about stammer Rav and Talmud, he said a sheni and he's happy. That's not the tainug. We're talking about mistama, then he's mimed a Talmud, that after many years of teaching a Talmud, from when he was young until he grows up, and then he sees his Talmud graduate to become also a big Meir Hiro or a big Rosh Roshi or something. So that Tainug is a Tainug Atzmi B'Tinug, because this is my Talmud. It's a bit like Levonecha Ela Talmidim, that he has a ben, is a Tainug Atzmi. Is also over here, he has a Talmud which he was mashpia ba'ifim pnimi, so it was all going through hashbos haseichel. He had to say the joke first, then he had to be mashpia, pnimius, shiurim, limud, and after many years he suddenly grows into a product. So then there's a tainug atzmi bilti mugish that happens to the Rav. So you see that through the pnimius you end up coming to the tainug atzmi habilti mugish. So that's the way everything works over here. Makiv, pnimi, and then etzem, which is higher than makiv. Makiv, pnimi, and then through the pnimi you reach etzem. So over here, going back to over here, you have the makiv is the chuppas, and then the pnimi is the nisuin itself. And what would be the atzmi? Would be pashtus be either the shas the nisuin, the hamshachas etzem of the chosen, or more so the tainug atzmi that he's going to have later when he has a ben. There's going to be an ismala with tainug, and there's going to be a tainug atzmi there. The tainug of Av and Ben is a tainug atzmi. That's the first mashal. Now the second mashal, we'll just try quickly the last few minutes to go through the second mashal, because there's a point here which everybody gets stuck on. So the second mashal, let's do the second mashal. Inside the mashal habesmi ben yonik the cotton, a small child. Sha'avi b'ritz l'ishtashei imi panim el panim. B'hariyatiniku cotton. Derech harav. Maybe it's man masugul to mention this. I don't know whether this is going to happen again. It says in Sfarim, this is off the Azaitika thing, but it's Negeir. I think nowadays it's very much Negeir to say this, Negeir to Chinuch. In Sfarim it says that if you want your children to grow up to be Bizdaf Sezain, you should keep a distance. In other words, don't play Lego with them every single day. You've got to stay at a distance, you have a certain roaminess. As I state in our Sefer, there's a certain Sefer that says this. It makes sense. You don't want to. You're not your child's brother. You're your child's father. But on the other hand, this Maimah says it's a mashal from the Mizitcha Magid that there's an Av wants to mishtashtem b'noi ponim el ponim. That means rubbing noses with a child, with a small child. So which kosa should you take? Which one is right? Obviously, they're both right. Eich she'iyeh, how are you going to balance it? But from here you see that there has to be also. Some people are lacking this, either because they didn't get it from their parents, or they didn't see it, or they didn't appreciate it. There has to be also kiruv, kipshuter, like shashuim b'nai hakot. There has to be a kiruv. And this kiruv is negeh to the child, because it's shashuim, it's tainug, and this helps the child grow. If he's lacking it, he will have a harder life. If you make him happy when he's a child, it's a very important thing. It's a small point, but it's very important to show a lot of ava to the children. Saying this now, they won't have a chance later. Once you're married, once you're married, you don't take haters from anyone. I'm telling you now. You have to show a kiruv to the children. There has to be a yachas, what they call now quality time. You have to face the child ponim el ponim and give him undivided attention. What did you do in school today? Did you understand the chumash? No, you didn't. You didn't understand the chumash. Maybe Tati can help you. Maybe this, whatever it is. Somebody started with him. So what did he do to you? I'm going to get it. You have to show him that you're with him. You're living his life, but it doesn't mean you have to be there 24 hours with him. Don't play Lego with him the whole time. There's a certain time when you give him, and that shows a kiruv. And this will help him later, as we'll see now from the Maimah, that this is actually a achona to later, when we get to the second. Time is limited, so. Which is the shashui. Where does this mashal come from? Which he didn't bring down the Maimah. Prays with his beard, shel ha'av. Which is, by the way, a pele otzim why there has to mention the beard of the Av. I mean, did we think the child had a beard? What's you have to say shel ha'av? Yesh leima, shebezeh merumas. Shahamshachas hamakiv shekedem hashpah pnimis hi lamayla meishtalshus. Is this okay so far? Let's read this again. From here is Merumah, that the makif that comes before the pnimi, the fact that he's being mishtasheh with the beard of the father, is Meramez that the hamshachas hamakif, which is before the pnimi, is l'mayla mehishtashlus. Does that make sense?
No.
Why not? What's the shashui? Makif or pnimi?
We said before the Shashim was Pnimi.
Right.
I was saying
And now he's saying, since he's being mishtasheh with his beard, which is Yud Gimel Tikkun Dikna, so that is Meramez that the makif before the pnimi. The pnimi is the beard. That part is pnimi already. The makif was picking him up. He's now here already, face to face. He's already nose to nose. And what's he doing? He's playing with his beard. Okay. So that's pnimi. Saying this is Meramez that the makif before the pnimi. How can it be Meramez and the makif before the pnimi? So for that reason, you have to learn Ha'ara number 17. This is the one Ha'ara which you have to learn. It says, "B'chlolis hashashuim hu inyan hakiliv pnimi." You're correct. The shashuim is pnimi. Avol be'erech halimud v'hashpo is pnimius dehaben me'aviv v'kayetze b'zeh gam zeh kiliv chitzei. Be'erech to learning with the child, it's called chitzei. When are you going to learn with the child? If you can pick him up now, obviously he's not to learn. You pick him up now in your hands and bring him face to face. So we're talking about a baby, a small child, 2-year-old, a 4-year-old. When are you going to learn with that child? Well, from Pnimi. That's when he's going to be bar mitzvah, let's say. So what the Rebbe is saying is, if we take the shashuim now, at this stage, when he's a child of 2 or 3, that is Pnimi. For him, that's the greatest shashuim, the greatest time you can have is panim al panim. But imagine he's 13, when you can't pick him up already, and you're going to be mishtasheh panim al panim. Is that going to be pnimi? Now, I'm talking about if he appreciates his father, he's going to appreciate his father, teaches him something, learns with him. So it comes out, let's put it all together, it comes out like this. The shashuim is pnimi, and it's also makif at the same time. It's pnimi for a 2-year-old, but it's makif for a 13-year-old. But that reinforces what we were just saying before. You have to show a lot of affection to a child when he's young, and then you're going to be able to learn with him when he's 13 or 14. If you don't show him the shashim when he's a child, and as he's growing up, not just 2, 3, as he goes up till his bar mitzvah, then he won't be makabel for him. The more you show, not the more you show him, if you show him shashuim, you show him tainud and pnimius of his level, then when he grows up, he'll be able to be makabel also, because the makif is always outdone to the pnimius.
It's only difference in the mata, but not in the mashpia. In other words, inside the kid, there's a difference. It becomes first a pnimi, then it becomes a makif. But inside the father.
So the father, the shashuim, okay, could be. You want to call the shashuim pnimium for the av? Maybe he's misanig with pnimius when he's mishtasheh with the B'nai Akad. But it's not the pnimius of limud which comes when he's 13. But the ikka we're discussing when they get to the Talmud. So the Talmud is first makif, this becomes makif for Yachas to later. But at the time it was pnimius. While we have the last minute, and we're not going to be able to finish this whole thing, I just want to mention something else which is also important, which I don't know if I'm going to have the time to tell you later, and you're not going to listen later, so I'm going to tell you now. Since it's talking about Cyrus Hazoki, I want to mention that there's 3 levels of Cyrus. Right? We have here Cyrus Hazokin. Which level is Zokin? He says you'd give it to Kunadikna, which is which level? Keser. There's Cyrus of Zo, Ze'er Ampin, is the Cyrus of the head, for those that still have. And then there's other Cyrus, which is of Malchus. Which Cyrus are they? Cyrus of an Isha. What do Chazal say? Cyrus be'Isha, Erva. Why? Because the Cyrus which are of Malchus are very close to Biyah, and clippers can come Biyonik. So if there's too many Cyrus over there, or they're not covered the way they're supposed to be covered, the clippers can come along and demand their share from the Cyrus. That's why the Rebbe made a mitzvah many years ago that all the Lubavitcher ladies should have dafka sheiklach. Not walk around the street with a ticha which starts somewhere in the middle. So we have to eradicate this. A very clipper kosher now, there's a lot of clippers going around. I'll just tell you a story which may help if you need to explain with the Veres at the right time. If Chas v'Shalom will be an issue, there was a person in Crown Heights who was being mugged. And he wrote a letter to the Rebbe. This is years and years ago. He wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, "Diuk b'tznius." So he went running to Rabbi Heller in the Kodesh, and he asked him, test me on Kitzur Taras. Rabbi Heller was one of the authors of Kitzur Dinitara, right? So, and he knows his stuff. So, test me on the halachas. Went to Kitzur Dinitara. Chazal did test me. Sorry, I made a mistake. It was after the second or third time he was marked, and he kept on getting the same answer from the Rebbe. Dig with sneers. He learned the whole thing over again, and he went to Rabbi Heller, test me. Rabbi Heller said, no. The Rebbe didn't say dig with Taras HaMishpacha. The Rebbe said dig with sneers. Does your wife cover her hair? She said, of course she comes. She goes to the shaykhim. Go home and check. Went home and checked. You always mark to cover your hair, right? She said, of course. I mean, nobody's in the house, and she's a tehira, so nobody's in the house. She walks around. Okay. It was Niskala Ve'im. From then on, she was marked only to cover her hair, and of course the marking stopped. So he explained, this does the vote. What's unique is a chitzonim? A clipper, a ruchnistic clipper. A chitzon is a shvatz, and the unique is he's taking your money from you. That's what marking is. That's a simple translation. And it doesn't have to be dafka from a maga. It could come anyway. You're driving down the highway, and now when you need to get somewhere, your tire blows out a tire, and you have to pay another, how much it costs for a new tire, $200, and you have to have a tow machine, and it doesn't yent, and it costs you, well, why do you have to lose all this money for nothing? I'll shov. Why? Because of the kleinigkeit with the mice with the sneers. So this is just since we mentioned Cyrus, you want to so then there's three levels. Cyrus of Isha is Ervish, should be cut short, and we know that the Rebbe said it should be not more than a tefach, but not giluach, because that's an union of nivel. So the Rebbe said once in Yechidus it should be from a half to a whole tefach. Huh? Yeah, I mean they don't accept any. I mean we know that if the shachtim find out that if there's a Rabbi Shesheichet, if they find out Rabbi Shesheichet that they won't accept his meat because his wife is not clean shaven. That's how they're marked on this. Ashreihem, and that's their minhag. But by uns, the Rebbe said they didn't want that because that's for Gilches Reishis, and it sounds like an of nivel. So therefore, we have from a Chatzi Tefach to a whole Tefach, that's the limit. Once it starts going past that, it becomes a problem. That's been geared to the Cyrus of the Isha. The Cyrus of the head we don't have to speak about. The Cyrus of the Zokin, versteht sich echt auf sich demonen, but nowadays, unfortunately, there's all types of mishigasim happening. You have to understand the Cyrus of Zokin are coming from Keser, and they're the Cyrus of Kedusha, right? So Cyrus of Kedusha, you have to be makbid dafka not to cut them off, because then you're cutting off your rachmin. So you're cutting off rachmin, so it causes problems. There was a letter to someone who said that he thought maybe if he was clean shaven, it would be easy to find a shidduch in the doctor. But he seemed that he was looking for a shidduch, and he thought maybe his clean shaven would work better. So they said, I don't understand. You want the Eibush to have rachmanos in you, and you don't cut off all the tzunayos of rachlim. So obviously, so you have the three levels. You have to be makbid on sneers, and you have to be makbid on tikkun dikna. So that at least the ben should have to have what to be mishtasheh with. If anybody wants a hemshech, and we're inside more be'iyun, that's for you to work it out. And that's